Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us during Florida Shines Virtual College Week. My name is Nashla Dawari, and I will be facilitating today's session, First Things First, to learn about how factors inside and outside of the classroom affect your college career and learn how you can manage them to achieve college success. Now, before we begin, I want to go over a few housekeeping items with you. If you have any questions during today's webinar, please put them in the questions section and we will address them during the live Q&A at the end of the presentation. Closed captioning is provided for this session by clicking the link provided in the chat section. This session is recorded and will be available along with all the resources shared during today's presentation on floridashines.org. And finally, we are live on Twitter, so feel free to share your comments and connect with us at FL Shines. Thank you. Now I'm going to jump in and introduce our speaker, Melanie Jackson. Melanie has 10 years of experience as a high school computer science teacher and 21 years of experience in a variety of student services and faculty roles in higher education. Her passion is really helping students achieve their academic and life goals. Melanie, we are so excited to have you with us today and hear your presentation. So the floor is all yours.
All right, thanks, Nashla. Appreciate that. I hope everyone is doing well this afternoon, and we are glad that you could join us. Let me see if I can get control of the PowerPoint. There we go. All right, terrific. So I just wanted to let you know there are several things that we're going to talk about today. And I am hoping that our audience is predominantly students who are getting ready to enter college. So you might even be freshmen in high school or junior, senior, sophomore, it doesn't matter. I've got some good information for everybody. We based this information on research at my college institution where I work now. We did research for a couple of years regarding things that we need to make sure all first-year college students know, kind of coming into college and then kind of your first year in college, to kind of help you be prepared, help you be a more successful college student. So the information I'm going to share with you today is certainly based on research. And then I also have, well, I have 4 children, but 2 of my daughters right now are in college. I have a 18 and 19-year-old, and so I asked them as well, what are some things that, you know, if we're talking to juniors and seniors in college, what are some things that those students might need to know in order to be successful? So they have certainly added to this list as well. So we're going to talk about several of these items and kind of explain them a little bit further. But as Nashla said, there's a chat box on there, and so if you have questions as we move along, please go ahead and type your question in the question box, and we do have time for those certainly at the very end as well. So one thing I would recommend is that you certainly take some type of career aptitude assessment. Even though you think, you know, you've had this path and you've had it since, I don't know, 6th grade, or maybe even, you know, you just came upon this particular field 6 months ago, I would urge you to take a comprehensive career aptitude assessment. There's a great one. I've got the website right there on Florida Shines. There, once you get to that particular site, you'll have to kind of click, but you'll be able to see the links on there. But I really encourage you to do that. It's really important not only to think about a job that matches your interests and skills, but also a job that has openings in the field. You want to be sure that you are headed down a career path where you can certainly get a job. And, you know, then you do want to think about how much money you could make with that job. Will you have to move out of the particular area where you are? Some of you are saying, yes, please, I want to move. And some of you may not be wanting to move. So, you know, those are just all kinds of things that you certainly want to consider when you're considering a career. Why is that important before you start college? You will have a certain number of hours that are extra, right? So an associate's degree in college is typically 60 college credit hours. 36 of those hours are pretty prescribed. So they're things like your math and your science for those of you who are seeking an associate in arts degree. And then you'll have 24 other hours where you can kind of explore a little bit. And so if you think about you want to do communication or business or psychology psychology, you'll have a little bit of leeway. Those of you who are thinking more of a vocational or applied science track, the curriculum is very specific. So again, if you can kind of come into college knowing, and not that you have to have the exact job, but maybe narrow down the field into business or hospitality and management, and then you can kind of refine that as you move along in your college career, I think is really helpful. So that's tip number one, is complete some type of academic pretest and career aptitude assessment. Also complete a learning style assessment. This was something I never did as a college student, and I do think it's really helpful. But what you need to know is how you learn best. So are you a kinesthetic learner, meaning somebody can talk and talk and talk to you, but until you actually get in and do it with your own two hands, or you get in and do it on the computer, that's better for you. Or are you an auditory learner, right? You really do learn by listening. If that's the case, then you probably want to maybe record the lectures and then be able to play those back at different times, because that's how you best learn. So it's really helpful to know how you best learn. And then also thinking about metacognition, which is just a really big word, to say that you are thinking about how you think. So, it's rare, I think, for all of us, even folks who are older and professionals, to think about yourself, because I think in school we focus so much on the academics, that it's rare that we stop to reflect on our own learning and our own self and our interests. And I think that is really, really important for you to do, especially as you're a junior, senior, and even that freshman year in college. It's really important for you to do. I have seen students, and I'm sure you have too in your own community, that graduate from college or vocational technical school with a particular degree or certificate, and then realize they don't enjoy that field, they don't enjoy the work, and then they either go back to school or just kind of take a different job that's really not in the area that they got the degree in. So I guess what I would say to you is this is your time, it's your money going to school, and so you want to make sure that you make the best investment of your money and your time possible. And those two things will help you completing a learning style assessment and just really thinking about how you think. Next, I know you won't believe this, but there's some college homework to do before classes even begin. I would say to you, if there's any way, you have that college list, and hopefully you guys have kind of done a little matrix maybe of, I don't know, 10, 15 institutions or colleges that you're really interested in attending. And then you've got your little ranking scale. What's important to you, right? Maybe it's cost, maybe it's athletics. You want to go to a big time football game. Maybe it's student clubs. Do they have a great major in your area? Are they world renowned for this particular field? Maybe it's the research. So whatever the areas are that you've kind of narrowed down your institutions, definitely most of you, I'm sure, are going to go on college visits for those, top 10, top 5, whatever you can do. But then not just go on the college visit, but ask to go to orientation. My daughter recently attended orientation at a private institution, and we didn't realize until we attended orientation for the college that there was a dress code. So, it wasn't a problem, right? But that would have been interesting to know ahead of time. So I think institutions provide some information in the guided tour and the welcome, but then when they really have orientation, which is for students who are set and coming, I think you find out some additional information too. So first of all, make sure that you choose the right college for you. And then the other thing that you want to know is your student rights and responsibilities, because you do have some responsibilities as a student. It was interesting recently in the news about the speaker that came to University of Florida, and we had a lot of our students questioning, why does that person get to come and speak if things might not go well? And the answer is that we live in an open society and a sunshine state, and if we're a public institution, folks can come in and talk, and that's just part of rights. You have a right to question your grade, right? If you don't necessarily agree with that, you have some tests, and maybe the faculty member has a different view of your scores and how you earned, you have the right to question that grade. How do you do that? It's different for every college, but knowing those things ahead of time certainly are very helpful. knowing about your college services. You hope that you're going to be able to come in and come to school and come to class, and academically you're going to be just fine. But there are lots of services that colleges provide that many students don't take advantage of that are certainly free. So whether that is and I think it's things that really in high school you're well aware of, and they're right there in the front office, or in high school someone comes to find you and tell you about a particular service or recommends a particular service. And in college, really, we leave it up to the student to identify that that might be a need for them. So again, whether that's something like a health room or a medical center where they can provide some type of first assessment or first aid. It might be a writing lab where they'll help you write a paper. It might be just an open computer lab where you can go and work on a computer. So be sure and know all about those services. And then I put a map on there, know where to find them. Many colleges are a little bit larger than high schools, and so sometimes people get a little nervous coming to college, but certainly don't do that. Just, kind of get a map of the college, figure out where the services are, and if you don't take a tour, take your own little walking tour, your guided tour, and figure out what's there. And lastly, I suggest on there, get to know your college. Every college has their own culture. It's kind of like every school, has their own culture. Every town, every community has their own culture. And so I think it's important that you know a little bit about the history of the college and the culture of the college where you're going to attend, because that certainly will tell you things that are important to that institution or college. And the other thing is academic offerings. So, we kind of touched on that earlier, but if you think that you want to major in business, then I would encourage you to find the 10 best business schools, whether that's in Florida, out of Florida, research that and see where those fall, and then attend that institution that hopefully has a good program in what it is that you want to study. And so you should be able to find that information on the institution website for sure. So you've chosen your school, you've figured out all the services, you've given yourself a little tour. There are actually things that you need to do before class starts, and I don't mean the day before class starts. You do want to be prepared on day one. When you walk in that college classroom, faculty are ready to go. They are presenting lessons. It's rare that your first day of class, the faculty member will go over the syllabus and then say, okay, everybody have a great day. Usually, the majority of faculty start immediately on the topic. They expect you to be prepared. They expect you to walk in class with the textbook. If that is a problem, I know that there are different types of students with perhaps different financial aid or, just different circumstances going on. Always let your faculty member know ahead of time. You should be able to email them through your learning management system or find their email on the college website, something like that, and ask them what, listen, I'm not going to have the textbook for a week or so, is that okay? A lot of times the textbook publishers understand that this is a challenge, and they will provide the first couple of chapters complimentary online for free. So you can always kind of check that out and see if that's available too. Syllabus and course materials. I had to ask my children who are college students, and they told me out of their 5 faculty members that each of them have, 2 of the 10 printed the syllabus and had it ready to pass out to students on the first day. The others expected the students to come with the syllabus to class. So again, that's just kind of something a little bit different. I think in high school, we tend to provide everything to you so that you have it right there in your hands. And in college, they expect students to be a little bit more prepared and proactive. So make sure you get in that course management system a little bit early. And most faculty now are using the course management system, whether that is Canvas or Blackboard or Desire to Learn, Moodle, but most are using that to house a lot of the course resources. So make sure that you can get in there and print those out and be ready for day one. Another thing, find your class ahead of time. So I've just got 2 different pictorial examples of a classroom. I think it makes a difference. If you're in kind of that classroom on the right where it's a large open setting, you've got plenty of room on the table to kind of bring your laptop, as some of those students do, spread your books out. That's different than the classroom on the left where you probably have a little tabletop thing that pops up right in front of you, right? So I think you do want to find your classroom ahead of time. You don't want to be lost. You don't want to get to class late on the first day. So that's one reason for finding it. But then the second one is as well, you're kind of prepared when you walk in and you know what to expect. And I think that's really helpful as well. In addition, some other things you can do to be prepared be at your classroom on time. I would suggest getting there if you can 5 to 10 minutes early. If you think about it, you're coming in the classroom, you got to put your backpack down, get your books and notebook out, find a pen, whatever it is. It's going to take you a couple of minutes to kind of get settled. So try and be there a little bit early. And then the other suggestion is make connections with other college students. One thing I always ask my students is how many of you had perfect attendance from kindergarten to 12th grade? And we all know there are not very many of those students. So especially in college, if you have to miss class, it's probably a very special teacher who is going to reach out to students to say, oh, I missed you in class on Monday. Here's what we did. Let me know if you have any questions. They'll post it, right? They'll probably have it posted, excuse me, in the course management system, but it's rare that they're going to reach out to specific students. So the best thing for you to do, again, make connections with other students in your class and have somebody that you can email, because lots of times students will be able to see other students who are in their class and communicate with them via email. And that's really helpful for, again, if you have a flat tire or something happens and you have to miss class, making those connections early on with students is better as well. Fully experience the college student life. At my institution, we're a largely commuter institution, which means not a lot of our students stay on campus. So I think it's really easy in state colleges like that and community colleges for students just to drive in, go to class, get back in their car, go back home. Maybe go to the library for an hour or two, but that's probably it. But I think one benefit of being in college is that you really truly need to immerse yourself in the college experience. Otherwise, it's kind of like high school, but with no bells. And you really don't gain as much as you could. The research tells us that when students are connected and feel part of a community and feel part of a college, they actually tend to be more academically successful and tend to stay in the college or be retained in the college longer. So do, find one academic type thing that you can do outside of class, whether that's visiting the faculty member in their office hour, going to the tutoring and learning center and just, saying, hey, I'm here. I wrote this 3 paragraphs in this class. Can you look it over and tell me what you think? I think it's better to reach out in those ways when it's not urgent than it is when you perhaps are not doing so academically well and you're really struggling, and then you've really got to reach out and are a little bit uneasy, right? So I think it is helpful to do some of those things ahead of time. The other thing that we would suggest you do is participate in some kind of club or a club-sponsored activity. Maybe you don't want to be part of the Phi Theta Kappa academic club, but you certainly want to go to their Halloween haunted house, right? So participate in some college things. You'll find it at all colleges that they'll have some type of student activities. Maybe it's just an SGA meeting. So lots of different clubs at our institutions, and we would encourage you to join. Some of them have dues, like annual dues. Some of them have no dues. You just join for free, and it doesn't cost you any money. And again, that's a way to connect with other college students. So specifically, if there's a club in your academic field, so again, if you wanted to study business, think about Phi Beta Lambda or some of those other business honorary societies, because I think that does help especially connect you with other professionals in that field. And that can be a great way to continue on in that field. Research ways to become involved in the college itself or in the local community. So that might mean through something like Rotaract or the Rotary Club, or many colleges will have some type of foundation. So find out how you can do that and become involved. And then one community event. That's always good, especially maybe you're from that community, not from the community, but again, research tells us that when students are connected to a community, that they tend to be more academically successful and stay in college longer. So we would certainly suggest that as well. One thing that I would also suggest is that nobody is going to care about your college career as much as you do or should. So this is the point where you'd have to kind of have a talk with yourself, and you know, it's going to mean perhaps a little bit extra work while you're in high school, because not only are you doing your academic work and your extracurricular activities and athletics, but you're also really kind of preparing for this next phase in your life. But by doing so, and by doing so ahead of time, you will be much better prepared and setting yourself up for success in that next phase of life in college. So definitely research financial aid options. And that could be within our state of Florida, or it could be, you know, in other states. There are many scholarships that go unclaimed every year because folks just don't know about them. So again, going back to those services at the college, take some time to go sit down with a financial aid professional at the college, you know, where you're interested in attending. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and see if there are some different scholarships that you might qualify for, or do they have a website that lists the scholarships where you can, you know, go search the parameters and specifications and see if you meet any of them. That's always a good idea too. The second one is have a written record of your degree plan. Lots of institutions will have some type of degree planning system. At our institution, we use a system called DegreeWorks, but basically it takes every class that you have taken at the college level and then kind of matches that up with the degree or certificate you said you wanted to obtain. And as you progress through your semesters, it actually kind of puts a green check mark, or you know, marks off the classes you have taken, and then kind of puts in red the classes you still need. And so again, continue to chart your progress. This is your time and your money in college, and so you want to make sure that you take classes that are totally geared exactly towards what will help you complete that degree or certificate for sure. Some institutions do registration for classes differently, but predominantly what you'll find is that registration or being able to register for classes, first you'll have to be admitted to the college itself, and then you'll usually find time frames. So students who have been at the college the longest, like the juniors and seniors in college, get to register first, and then perhaps the sophomores in college get to register next, then the freshmen, and then everybody else who's coming in brand new. So if you are a student who has done some dual enrollment, or you've got some AP credit, be sure that your institution has those and has them on file and has given you credit in the academic system for those. And that may make a difference on how early you can register. Obviously, if you wanted to do something like get a Monday, Wednesday only schedule, or you need classes in the morning so you can work in the afternoon, whatever it might be, the earlier you can register, the better. And again, different institutions do things differently. At my institution, we require that every first year freshman see an academic advisor. We explain to them the degree planning system that we have. And after that, unless you have a question, you don't have to go back and see an academic advisor, which really kind of means you're on your own to schedule your classes, make sure you're scheduling the correct classes that you need to complete that degree. Obviously, students are welcome to go back and speak with an advisor at any time, but just kind of know the policies of your institution, and know kind of when that registration is coming around, and that will certainly help, you know, mesh together, because that's this other thing about college, is that you've got this personal life going on and a college life going on, and that you want to make sure that you are able to balance both, because that is certainly important. Ask and ye shall receive is the name of the next one. I think as well, in high school, I think the faculty, the teachers, are very good about explaining everything and perhaps over-explaining it. And in college, sometimes we focus very much on the academics and maybe not so much on the logistics. And so don't be afraid to ask questions. I know so many college students that just say, oh, I just don't know. They seemed busy, or, you know, they were kind of rushing out of class or whatever. When you attend college and you take a class, you're paying for the class. So, you know, make sure that you are able to have answers to anything that you might need. If you're like me, sometimes I forget things, so I always tend to write things down. So if you go talk to the faculty member, or if you have an, you know, if you're emailing back and forth with the faculty member, you know, sometimes when I'm taking multiple classes, I might confuse what my math teacher told me with what my writing teacher told me. So make sure you're able to distinguish that. Maybe have, I used to use my syllabus and kind of I stapled a blank paper on the back of my syllabus, and anything that was kind of class related and things the faculty member had told me, like, hey, every test we have will have 50 questions and they're all multiple choice, right? So I would write that on the syllabus, and then I kept that syllabus kind of in a binder where I wouldn't forget what the faculty member had said. So just be sure to you know, if you ask questions, that's terrific, you've got the answers. Write those down somewhere so that you don't forget, especially if the faculty member is providing the information to you verbally. That's really important to make sure that you have a record of that information. So those are some of the tips that I have for you today. At this time, we can kind of open it up to questions.
Yes, absolutely, Melanie. Thank you so much. And like you said, at this time, I'd like to invite our audience to send in your questions for Melanie. And as we prepare for those, Melanie, I want to thank you, and I'm so glad that you shared Microshines as a resource during the beginning of your presentation to take the assessment and learn more about your interests, your skills, your values, and how all that translates into a major, a degree, and even an occupation. Because again, like you said, it's so important to love what you do when you enter the world of work. So I appreciate you sharing that. So we're going to take questions from our audience, and here in a second, I'm looking at the screen to see if there's any. We have a couple, Melanie, if you don't mind. You shared a lot of information for students in terms of the steps they need to take and how they can prepare. Do you have any additional tips or recommendations for students with a disability? What other pieces should they consider?
Absolutely, that is a terrific question. And so students with special needs, it's very different from high school to college. In high school, and I can say this, 3 of my 4 children were exceptional needs students. So I think in high school we really stay on top of it. They have an individualized education plan. We bring in, right, the academic teacher, the special needs teacher, some administrator, the student, the parent. We talk about it. What's a learning plan for the student? How can we help them best succeed? They might go through some assessment type process to determine if it's a reading disability or, you know, what the special need is, because obviously our goal, and even in college and in high school, is to help the student be academically successful. That's the #1 goal. So whatever accommodations that we need to make, then we want to do that. In college, your IEP, your special education plan does not follow you. So in college, we ask students to self-identify. That means that students will need to bring in their own recent results of an assessment. Depending on how long it has been, they may have to have another assessment. At every institution, there should be someone in the advising and counseling office who is dedicated to exceptional students. And so I would make sure to locate that person at your institution. Your student services folks are usually awesome, and so I would just maybe even reach out to you know, somebody at the welcome center or whoever, the operator that answers the phone, right? They can usually probably point you in that right direction. But find that person to find out at your institution, what kind of documentation do I need to bring you? What do I need to do? And that's going to help you get it on file with the institution. The second piece of that is that you need to make sure that you identify to every single faculty member that you have that you are a student with special needs, and here's what some of those are. I can only kind of tell you the process from my institution, but as a faculty member, I will receive a notification from my counselor, who's my exceptional student coordinator, and I'll receive a notice that, I don't know, John Smith is a student with exceptional needs. He gets, and then it'll kind of have some things checked, extra time on a test, or a printed, I need to provide a written transcript of any audio presentation that I do. And so we are not told as faculty members what the needed special exception of the student is, but we're just told the services that we can provide. Most parents and students know, but by law, we have to provide those accommodations and special services. So stay on top of that for sure. And, again, the goal is to definitely be academically successful, and that special needs counselor or coordinator can definitely point you in that right direction at your institution. Good question.
Thanks, Melanie. Absolutely. So don't be afraid to connect with those departments. Thanks for sharing those few departments. Because ultimately the goal is to make students successful. Melanie, I want to go back to career in education planning and My Career Shines. We have a question related to that. So if a student takes a career prep test and the results don't quite match what they thought they should do or what they want to do, should they still follow the test? Should they follow their gut? Should they try a little bit of each of their interests? What should they do? What's your recommendation?
Oh, that is a great question. My recommendation to you is go find people in that field. So if it was veterinary or hospitality management or accounting, find some people in your local community. If you don't know and you just think, oh my stars, I don't know where to start, ask one of your high school guidance counselors. Listen, I think I want to go in, here's my top 3 career choices: veterinary, accounting, and hotel management, right? And let your high school guidance counselor, or maybe even one of the administrators at your school, lots of times you can connect through a local Rotary Club who has a variety of professional members, but they'll put you in touch with somebody, and go shadow in those fields for a day, because you can certainly tell if you can spend a day with someone and just kind of say, can I walk in your shoes for one day? Let me see the different things you do. Lots of times professionals, especially if they've got a high school student who is really interested, they get excited too, and they'll say, oh, let's go to lunch, and then you can have some quiet time either over lunch or at the end of the day to talk with that professional. If you can't spare a whole day, if you don't have early release days or a teacher work day when you can go and shadow these professionals, maybe even just say, listen, is there a time when I can come interview you? Can I do a phone interview, right? But connect with those professionals who are in the field doing what you think you want to do, and that may provide some clarity for you on a career path. If you really don't know, right, you still have these couple of ones, then that's what college is for. So everybody's probably going to take a little bit of math, science, history, those kinds of things, and then you're going to have some of those specialty classes where you can focus on that individual area, and you'll find, and you can ask your parents and ask your high school teachers and other mentors that you have in your community or church, but you'll find as you take those classes, the things that you love to read about it and you love to study about it, you're like, oh man, that's so cool. That's where you want to go. As Nashla said, you want to find a profession where you really enjoy going to work every day, and that's going to make life very enjoyable for you. So yeah, good question.
Thanks, Melanie. And I think you'll probably agree to say that it is okay to be undecided, sort of in connection with our next question, in terms of your recommendations. If students are undecided, can they still get started with the admissions process and applying to a college, and should they still get started as early as possible?
Absolutely. We have, I want to say the average college student changed their major 3 or 4 times. So, some students now are just coming in and saying, look, I'll be honest, I don't really know. And that is perfectly okay because, again, college is really kind of a time, as we said earlier, you're reflecting on yourself, you're thinking about what you're interested in. Again, maybe join some of those student clubs to see if that's the type of professionals that you like. Yeah, so absolutely, and you are totally right, Nashla. You have to start that college process early. Um, Really, at least I would hope, and everybody may tell you different, but hopefully by the start of your junior year, you have at least narrowed down some institutions and are starting that process for yourself of kind of narrowing them down. I've known many students who really simply don't have the money to apply to 10 different institutions. So you have to do a little bit of homework and legwork on the front to decide where you want to attend. Yeah, but as soon as you can apply, we are finding now. I have a daughter that's going to head to USF, and we were talking about housing, and so I didn't really realize you really need to apply for housing almost a year before you come to school there, and that's so because their housing is just kind of limited, and so there are lots of things that have very specific deadlines. So. Be sure and check that out for every institution that you're interested in. But as early as you can, I would encourage you to apply. Yeah, you're correct on that.
Thank you, Melanie. And so true. So definitely homework before the first day of classes, like you said. So I want to thank you, Melanie. This is the end of our questions, I believe. Let's see if there's any more coming in. Give us a second. Okay, so Melanie, we do have one last question. For younger high school students, what would you recommend for college entrance exams? Would you recommend that they take it multiple times leading into high school senior year, or take it once or twice closer to senior year? Does it affect the ultimate admissions decision for them?
Man, that's a great question. I'm going to give you a personal answer as a mom of college students, and you may find that a college admissions counselor may tell you different. There may be some college admissions professionals that may have a matrix. My understanding is the college looks at your best score, and they may want to know all the times you've taken it, but they're going to categorize your application or see if you meet their minimum admissions requirements or minimum scholarship requirements by your best effort on those tests. So, if the primary ones we're looking at are the ACT and SAT, and so those tend to have different ways that they score them. So, make sure that you're aware of all of those. Can you guess at an answer? Is it better if you guess at the answer, or if you really don't know, should you leave it blank? So there are a lot of those test things that you really need to learn ahead of time. You'll find in some communities that there will be free test prep sessions. So again, your high school guidance counselors are usually a good source of information along that. If you can find if your community or school district has a advanced academics parent group or just kind of community group. Lots of times it's even just on social media. They don't ever meet in person, but they just kind of trade information on social media. That's something that you would connect with because, again, they'll know about those free test prep sessions. But lots of good information that's there. I think the more times you do something, it's a little less stressful. So whether that's speaking in public or interviewing people or leading a meeting or whatever it is. So even something like the ACT and SAT, I think everybody is nervous when they walk in the door and they've got their sharpened pencils, and it's a little bit nerve-wracking, right? To think that I got to do really well on this so I can get in this college of my choice. And so I think that once you get in there and you understand the testing process and the logistics, and then also the thing that happens after you take that test, I think, again, there's different things that you can do, but some of them you can request back a breakdown of your scores. So maybe if we're just looking at mathematics, you know what, maybe I need to study geometry a little bit more, but I was fine on the algebra part. And you know what, hey, I need to sharpen up on statistics or calculus, but I'm okay in something else. So I think the thing that does, if you take the test one time and see where you need to improve, then that certainly will help you be able to find things to study and then do better the next time you take the test. So do you want to take it once a year? I don't know about that, but I think it does help to take it multiple times, because I think the second and third time that you might take it, you're a little bit less nervous. You've gotten back those results. You've been able to study a little bit and target, you know, kind of specific areas that you might need as well. So good question.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that tip of breaking it down so that you can focus on the specific area that you can work on, because everything can be overwhelming. And also maybe even knowing that test scores may not be everything sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
There's other factors that play just as big of a role in the admissions process. And so it's always good to think about being well-rounded overall. So that's great, Melanie. Thank you so much. I believe that is the end of our questions. So I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing such a wealth of resources and tips. Definitely have some homework before the first day of school. And I, at this time, would like to remind our audience that the recorded session, along with the presentation and any materials that Melanie shared with us today, will be posted on floridashines.org. Now, if you'd like to learn more about Florida's Bright Future Scholarship and college athletics, you can join us next at 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock this afternoon. You can sign up for this set of sessions or tomorrow's set of sessions at virtualcollegeweek.org. And again, thank you, Melanie, and thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.